Please. Thank you. I now welcome members and those in the public gallery. Before we begin, in the event of an evacuation, the alarm sounding, everyone should vacate the building through the nearest exit and proceed directly to the assembly point in front of the town hall. If it's not a continuous sound and it's an intermittent sound, that means we're in lockdown, and please stay where you are. Item 1, Charlotte, are there any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Leader. No apologies received for today's meeting.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? Can't see any hands raised, so the answer to that is no. Item 3, minutes of the Cabinet meetings held on the 22nd of March and the 30th of May. Now, can I just draw the attention here that whilst the members weren't present at on the 22nd of March, I'd like to confirm that the actions raised in those meetings were taken, even though we weren't present. Just one thing to bring your attention to, there is an error in the date for the Hilton Hotel deferred at the meeting. It should read the 30th of May, not the 22nd of March, and that will be corrected on the next publication. So are members happy to note those and approve the minutes of those two meetings? Thank you very much. Item 4, petitions to Cabinet. Are there any petitions to be presented to the Cabinet today? Nope. Thank you. Okay. Item 5, the Peterborough strategic decisions. The first is the Peterborough Housing Strategy 24 to 29. So that's Cabinet Member Councillor Alison Jones, Director Adrian Chapman, and Officers Anne Keogh and Bobby Duke, both of whom are present today. Nice to see you, thank you. And it's recommended that the Cabinet considers the consultation response to the draft housing strategy summarised in key issues report and supports the housing strategy and recommends it to the Council for adoption for public consultation. For adoption. Thank you. Can we make that note, please, Charlotte? That's kind. Thank you, Anne. Anybody wish to speak on it, or are we agreed with the recommendations? That looks like we're agreed. Okay, thank you. Be nice to hear. Okay, item 6, thank you, Anne. Peterborough City Council Healthier Food and Drink Advertising Policy. Cabinet Member Councillor Shabina Kayum, Director Emmeline Watkins, and Officers Paul Stokes and Emmeline Watkins. Firstly, I understand that members of the Youth Council wish to speak on this item. If so, I invite you to address the Cabinet, and you've got 3 minutes to do so. Thank you.
Oh, there it is. So we wish to address you today regarding a petition that we started a while back. I think it was in March we presented that we essentially want to help reduce junk food advertising, and especially those that promote foods high in salt, fats and sugars. The reason why we feel so closely to this, the reason why we want to push it this much is because we've seen it for ourselves, the impact that obesity has had in Peterborough and especially in deprived areas. We feel as though as children and young people that are constantly exposed to junk food advertisements are a lot more likely to go for those unhealthy food options. And we want to promote an autonomy. We want to promote a sense of, you know, I get to choose what I want to eat, and if it's healthy, then that's what I'll go for, and I don't have to go for a McDonald's just because it's in my face. So throughout the duration of the petition, we've consulted various bodies. We've had help from Sustain as well, which Arian will introduce in a minute. And we hope that you guys can support us on this.
Hello. So a bit of information about the policy. So we had a scrutiny meeting in November, and it was decided that a policy will be thought of, and we'll create a policy that will go to the meeting here today, and it will hopefully be approved. So the policy has been created with the help of Sustain. They're a charitable organisation who has worked with 14 other councils in the city to help implement a similar strategy. And we noticed that a common counter-argument we gain is that will it interfere with the finances of the city? And it's worked for 14 different councils so far. And a good example is Transport for London. None of the councils have actually said that their revenue has decreased. In fact, Transport for London said that their revenue increased because most of the companies, fast food companies like McDonald's and Burger King, they've already got healthy food options there. They just don't advertise it as much. And if we implement this policy, they'll be forced to advertise the healthy food options, which will be good for the city's well-being. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody wants to ask you any questions. Are you happy to take any questions if there are any?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Members, does anybody have any questions for the Youth Council? No, looks like you've got off lightly. Thank you very much for your presentation, and it's nice to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so the recommendation is on page 79, and it's recommended that Cabinet consider the Peterborough City Council Healthier Food and Drink Advertising Policy for adoption. Members, are we agreed? Thank you. Okay, we're agreed. Okay. Yeah, okay. Members, as the next two items are for agendaed for part exemption, what I'm suggesting is we put them to the end of the agenda because they're going to be, that's where we cut the live stream, so we don't have to bring them in again. So is that okay with everyone? So 7 and 8 will go after item 9. Okay, item 9, monitoring items, the quarterly performance, quarter 4, end of year, 2023-2024, performance report and productivity plan. Cabinet Member Councillor Amjad Iqbal, Director Cecilia Booth and Officer Rob Atkins. The recommendations are on page 115. Councillor Iqbal, would you like to introduce the item, please?
Thank you, Leader. This report describes performance highlights from our corporate performance framework reporting for quarter 23-24. Along with this, we have presented the Council's productivity plan. This plan is our response to DELUC's specific request to create and submit a productivity plan by 19th of July 2024. It meets the specification and requirements defined by DELUC. Thank you.
Short and sweet. Thank you, Councillor Iqbal. The recommendations on page 115, it's noted that the corporate performance report for quarter 4 and approves the related productivity plan for submission to the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. Are there any questions? And if not, members, are we agreed? Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a question about some of the data from the children's section of the report. I think it's page 122 on the agenda. It states that 84% of our primary schools are good or above, but nationally it's 90%. What are we doing to support the academies to ensure that our children are receiving a good or above good education.
John, would you like to take that, please?
Yeah, thank you. I'd be delighted. So I think I should say, in terms of a question about primary schools, there's still a number of primary schools that are maintained by the local authority and are some of which are overseen by the church. The vast majority of our academies in the city are, the vast majority of our secondary schools are academies. In relation to Councillor Cole's specific question, I can advise that we continue to operate a robust school improvement service, and we work closely with our schools. We've just written to all schools regarding their performance, and we're arranging to meet with them regarding published data. We continue to do that. I'm confident that as we move forward in our new partnership with our new Peterborough schools, we'll see an increase in the number of schools that are judged good or better by Ofsted. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Cole, do you have a follow-up question? Yeah, okay with that. Okay, any further questions on the outturn report? Sorry, the performance report, I beg your pardon. No? Okay. So, on that note, excuse me, it's recommended that, well, if there's no further questions, are we agreed before we go to item 11? Thank you. Item 10. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Item 10, the outturn 2023-24 and the medium-term financial strategy, Q4 update. Cabinet Member Councillor Amjad Iqbal, would you like to introduce the item, please?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. The report in front of you outlines the financial position for the year up to 31st March 2024. We finished this year with an overspend of 1.2 million against our net revenue budget. Although this is an overspend, it's much improved position to that we saw earlier in the year and reflects the hard work across the whole council to manage our financial risks and reduce expenditure where possible. And on that note, I would like to extend my thanks to all of our staff and the leadership team for their continued efforts and focus on the financial position. This year, we've seen the continuation of our improvement journey with many achievements to celebrate. You'll see in section 4.1 of the report, some of the successes have been noted, with some of the highlights being successfully in sourcing services previously provided by Circle, which included the TUPE of almost 300 employees, successful staff award ceremony, of which there was almost 400 nominations, 99% of the savings program delivered, services shortlisted for awards by both the LGC and MJ, key milestones for the regeneration of the city, including the launch of a new investment prospectus and approval of the outlined business case for the station quarter. We'll continue to build on this and drive the delivery of the transformation program and new ways of working to ensure we are providing services which reflect value for money for residents. But we recognize we still have a number of financial challenges to manage, including risk levels of demand on services such as adults and children's social care, housing, rise in the numbers of children with special educational needs requiring support. During 24-25, the Council expects we will join over 100 other local authorities holding a deficit on their dedicated school grant. Interest rates have held at higher rates and are now not going to reduce until much later in the year. This is affecting the Council's cost of borrowing. The additional cost of decoupling some of our services from Cambridgeshire County Council. Lastly, our reserve balance are running low. They're expected to reduce from 70 million at the start of 23-24 to 24 million by 31st March 2025, a 65% reduction, which threatens the financial resilience of the organisation. Appendix C of the report outlines the three-year position, setting out forecast budget gaps of 3.2 million in 25-26, 6.9 million in 26-27, and 9.7 million in 27-28. In the coming months, I will be bringing back an update position which will incorporate our revised financial assumptions and the potential financial implications on our budget. We recognise that we still have hard work ahead of us, but we will continue to operate with discipline and closely monitor these moving parts. Leader, I recommend that Cabinet notes items 1 to 6 in the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Iqbal. Does members have any questions for officers?
Leader, I have a question. I'm over here.
Okay, Councillor Jamil, thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions, and I'm just looking for the report. First, can I refer you to page 140, the homeschool transport? In terms of the costs that we're incurring and have we ever looked at bringing this in-house to see if we could do it any cheaper? Because it says that most of these contracts are outsourced anyway.
Who'd like to pick that up? Cecilia, thank you.
John might want to come in and add to what I'm going to say. We did look last year to at the possibility of Peterborough Limited doing some of the transport and to change their routes so we have a better balance of adults going to day centres and children going to school. The review stalled a little bit, but I think now that John is here, I think I'd like to pick that project up again.
John, you want to? Yeah? By all means.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the position regarding transport for children is complex, not least because of the pressures that we have across the city in relation to school places, where some children are being placed in schools further afield than we would ideally like because there are not sufficient places for children. So that is presenting us with an additional pressure. Work is underway to address that, and I'm confident that we will be bringing forward plans in the forthcoming period to begin to address that. But specifically around the question that was asked, Peterborough Limited do provide some of the transport for our children already. We have had numerous conversations regarding the transport for our children with Peterborough Limited. We've looked at other options with Peterborough Limited as well, and I'm confident as we take forward our ongoing work around the relationship with Peterborough Limited that will improve further.
Thank you, John and Cecilia. Jamil, do you have another question? Do you want to follow up?
Yeah, I do, and it's to do with our Ofsted report and the use of reserves. Now, my issue here is, if we're dipping into reserves, how long can we keep this going for? I know we're looking to improve, but if we're having to dip into reserves, we're going to have a problem at that end. So is there no new money that's coming our way? How are we going to solve this problem if we do not get adequate or above next time?
Okay, thank you. Cecilia, would you like to reply?
Thank you, Chair. So it was agreed when the Ofsted report came in that we would fund the first year from only the first year from reserves, and that was because in January we had already balanced the budget and we didn't know what the additional ask was going to be, so that was a conscious decision that the first year would be funded from reserves. We now have the business case for the additional finances requested, and that has been approved, and the value of that will be built into cash limits in the 25-26 budget setting process. So it's only the 1 year we're funding it from reserves. It would be completely unsustainable to carry on funding the additional pressures from reserves because our reserves are so low in the first place.
Thank you, Cecilia. You okay? Okay. Any further questions from members? Councillor Kayam.
Thank you, Chair. I'm referring to page 140 of the report, and I'd just like to ask, with reference to the pressures on adult social care, we speak about a pathway where we will be investing in a digital and automation programme facilitating technology-enabled care. Do we have a business case for it? Do we know whether any substantial investment will be needed to make this a success? And I know I've already had conversations with Steve and it sounds encouraging, But that was just one of the things that I wanted to have a look at, given our financial situation. Thank you.
Steve, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, we do have quite a comprehensive business case kind of around digital and a whole range of work streams that we're working on to be able to kind of prevent future needs. So we do have some additional investment already within digital. We've also been able to get money from the NHS really to be able to invest in it, particularly around kind of assistive technology and increasing our use of assistive technology. So I think it's about using the additional investment we've got, the money that we've got from the NHS, and I think developing further the business case as we develop further, and increase how we prevent future need for care as we move forward and develop it further.
Thank you, Steve. Does anybody else any questions? Councillor Thorburn.
Thank you, Leader. It's about the capital programme. There's been a bit of a surprise over the past week or so on the capital programme. It's been frozen. I'm interested in why that wasn't picked up in the Q4 performance report outturn.
Cecilia, perhaps, sorry, just to introduce you.
So the additional pressure on the capital programme is the additional borrowing cost, because the Bank of England rate, the base rate, has remained stubbornly high throughout the whole of the financial year. In the outturn report, we did absorb it, so that's part of the £1.2 million overspend. But the additional pressure when we set the budget in January last year, there was no expectation that the rates were going to stay as high as they are now. So working that through where we are now, in Q1, that gave us an additional £3.5 million pressure. So to just ease that pressure with immediate effect, and it's not so much down to new capital expenditure. We borrow on a regular basis, and when those loans mature, we have to replace them. So we have loans maturing in the first quarter of the year where we pay in 1% and 2%, and we would have to replace them with loans paying 5.5%. So it's just a timing issue. If and when rates start falling from September, which is what the forecast is now telling us, we can start again. But it's just to prevent us from borrowing at the peak of the yield curve, really.
Thank you, Cecilia. Councillor Thorpe, okay? Okay. How confident are we, the financial markets, that interest rates will in fact, reduce? Because they'll still be higher than the rates that we currently borrowed at, won't they?
So the only thing we can say with certainty about forecasting is that they're always wrong, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But we work very closely with our Treasury advisors, and we borrow from the Public Works Loan Board, which is the government department, the debt management office. We work very closely with our advisors and their forecasts. So the reduction in rates has been pushed back and back and back because the economy is still not in a very good place. So I can't give you any certainty, and nobody can.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Members, any further questions for directors? Councillor Cole.
Is there any update from the improvement panel? How are we doing?
I think you direct that to Matt, if I don't mind.
Just to give you a little bit of an anecdote, they described it, they've been saying for us for quite a while of, you're not out of the woods, you're doing everything right, you're working really closely with Financial Sustainability Working Group. There's been really cross-party support. The report, is a huge amount of thanks for all politicians, all senior staff getting involved and getting behind the improvements across the council. But they've always said, you're not out of the woods yet. But they've sort of said to us, you're right on the edge of the woods now. So it's a bit anecdotal, but I get the sense that they're giving. We've come through a lot of change over the last 2 or 3 years. What they're saying now is all councils are struggling financially. Who knows what might be in store with a new government. Hopefully there might be some further investment, but I'm not expecting loads. So medium-term financial plan, the good question around children's, the need for transformation around digital, absolutely critical. So the message they will give, and I know the leader has a conversation with the improvement panel chair, I think, tomorrow, you need to really carry on with the transformation. you do not have enough money to deliver all your aspirations. So you have to refine, you have to redesign, and you have to refocus. There are tough decisions coming up for any administration, and it's absolutely critical that we embrace that and we carry on the cross-party collaboration to deliver that for the interests of the residents and businesses in Peterborough. But overall, it's a message of you've turned the corner, you're doing a hell of a lot of good work, well done, but keep going.
Okay. If I can ask a question, please, Matt, is last year the improvement panel were due to finish at the end of December, and we felt it prudent that they stayed on until after the budget in February. How do you and the officers feel about a similar situation? You mentioned the end of December. Might it be prudent to stay until the budget?
If I'm honest, I'm fairly flexible around it. They could well say, well, we want to just see the year-end position and then we'll take a view on that. Just rest assured, I mean, Cecilia and I have regular conversations with the department. When I say regular, actually we haven't probably spoken to them for probably several months. We are not a problem or a concern, touch wood, from government. We were on a list several years ago, and we have not been on the problem list for ages, over sort of year and a half already. So I think if we need to extend that slightly, fine, but that's our call. It's our improvement panel. This has not been imposed by government. We've reached out collectively and constructively with those improvement panel advisors and chairs, and if I'm honest, I think they've been a fantastic credit to Peterborough and to the local government sector in helping transform and change how we've operated. They do give us a bit of a rough time sometimes, but generally I find them really supportive, very constructive, and what's really pleasing is we listen to their advice, we don't fight it, whereas some places have fought improvement panels and they've fallen into a crop on it. So I think we're doing pretty damn well, if I'm honest, but we just need to keep pushing. And I would say that, wouldn't I, as Chief Exec, but we have to.
Thank you, Matt. And I have to say, being part of SWG, FSWG and the improvement panel for over a year now, they have been a very useful and helpful critical friend to us, and I've very much appreciated it. Thank you. Any further questions from members? I can't see any hands raised. On that basis, following the recommendations on page 137, it's recommended that the Cabinet notes the final 23-24 revenue outturn position as a £1.2 million overspend on the Council's revenue budget, subject to finalisation of the statutory statement of accounts. The reserves position outlined in section 4.5.2. The medium-term financial strategy Q4 update outlined in Appendix B. For the 2023-24 capital programme outturn position of 130 million outlined in section 4.6, with the details of schemes outlined in Appendix C. 5. Performance against the prudential indicators as outlined in Appendix D. 6. Performance on payment of creditors, debt collection performance, local taxation and benefit overpayments as outlined in Appendix E. Members, are we agreed? Thank you. Which brings us now to item 7, which are, it's a purchase of a property for use as a home for children, and if members wish to discuss the exempt appendices for item 7, are there any members wish to do that? Okay. In which case, do we agree to exclude the press and public during the discussion of the exempt appendices for item 7 by reason of the paragraph 3? Beg your pardon. I can do, as item 8 is also coming up, which is about the academisation of a primary school, then that will also be subject. So item 7 and item 8, by reason of the paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972, because they contain information relating to the financial and business affairs of the Council. The public interest test has been applied to the information contained within these exempt appendices, and it is considered that the need to retain it and information as exempt outweighs the public interest in disclosing it. So are we agreed on that? Thank you.